Hi, this is Sebastian Braxton, and welcome back to Verse by Verse. We are in season 2. This is episode number 3, and we are in the book of Philemon. Now, this book, as we've already stated, is really at the center of a huge biblical controversy. And in this particular verse that we're focusing on, verse 3 of the book of Philemon, is kind of a verse that people would just kind of casually pass over as insignificant. But what you realize is something that is very common, everyday life, that things people say all the time, can oftentimes have huge significance when placed in the right context. So, for example, Paul uses this standard greeting where he says, "Grace to you and peace from God our Father and from the Lord Jesus Christ." Now, if you think to yourself, this is just the standard greeting. He says this in Timothy, he says this in other letters, the Thessalonian letters. But the truth is, in a context in which Paul is trying to engineer reconciliation between Onesimus and Philemon, this verse has immense groundbreaking potential for what he's trying to accomplish. In other words, this common greeting of just grace to you was reminding Philemon exactly of his place and experience with God in Jesus, how he came to the place in which Paul even knows him. You see, he was trying to emphasize and remind Philemon, even in his greeting, Philemon, don't forget, there was a time where Jesus interceded on your behalf in order for God to give you favor in your own life. That there were some things that are unmerited blessings that you've experienced, and one of those is peace. And so as he tells him this, I'm praying for you to have grace and peace from God. I can't give you that peace. And Jesus is the only one that can give you that peace. But as he moves forward through this process, he's going to lay the groundwork to essentially suggest to Philemon that when we are reconciling individuals, when we're dealing with a very divided and polarized situation, it is usually the result of the fact that we've forgotten that we ourselves were once in need of grace in our lives. I want you to think about the times of conflict that you've had in your own experience. Think about the situations and the relationships that maybe aren't even mended in your life right now, and how you sit down with people and you say, really, you need to forgive your mom. You need to forgive your brother. You need to forgive your friend. You need to forgive your boss or your coworker or your employee or whatever the case may be. And oftentimes in that very moment where they say, no, this person did this and they always do this and they always do that. And we say, no. But the truth is, Paul says, think about the fact that when we include the divine relationship in this equation, don't forget that you yourself were once in need of grace. You were once in need of favor that you did not deserve. You were once in need of mercy that you could not earn. And so Paul builds a very compelling case that when we're dealing with someone who has wronged us or where there's conflict, he says, come and have well wishes towards them. Pray that God gives grace to them, but even further than that, remind them of where they came from. Remind them of how far God has brought them in their own lives and how there was a time where they needed grace and they desired peace and God gave it to them, even though they didn't deserve it. This is a very powerful concept, and it lays the framework for Paul's argument that's coming throughout the rest of the book.